Hey, what's up, guys? This is the Airtime Misfits Podcast. I'm your host, Adam, alongside Nick.
What's up?
You guys are in luck because you are listening to the podcast that features the biggest Fantist of Mantist, and that's known worldwide.
That is known worldwide. You are currently hearing the voice of the biggest Fantist of Mantist.
That's
and,
right.
and this is my episode. It's dedicated to me. And
I'm just going to sit back and let Nick talk
yes,
about his love of Mantis. So this will be probably 2 or 3 hours long.
at least, yeah.
So
Grab that popcorn, get ready, because you're in for a treat today. So, Mantis. Oh man, where do I even begin? Where to begin? For those that don't know, I have an enormous collection of Mantis merchandise.
Nick has hearts floating around his head right now.
I really do. Yeah, you can kind of see them. It's like an anime down here in this basement. But yeah, so long story short, before I get into the facts, I guess the big reason why I'm such a fan of Mantis is because, or Fantist of Mantist as it's been coined, is because I moved to Ohio in 1999. I was 6 years old. So if you know anything about Cedar Point, you know that Millennium Force wasn't around yet. So really the most recent coaster, and quite honestly, one of the two big ones there at the time, was Raptor and Mantis. And I don't know, I just clinged on to Mantis, and I started collecting Mantis merchandise every time I would go. So long story short, Adam can attest to this. He's been in my basement.
I've seen it.
Yeah. My collection has accumulated over 22 years now. And I have now hundreds of Mantis items.
It's impressive and also a little scary.
It is a little scary. It's a little excessive. Yeah, I'm ashamed of it in a way, but also I'm not.
No need to be ashamed. It's gotta. I would assume it's gotta be the biggest collection of Mantis memorabilia.
I hope so. Because I don't want to meet the person that has more than me.
No.
It's such a strange coaster to latch onto. But the reason I latched onto it was because, I don't know, it was the coaster at Cedar Point at the time, and I was just like, man, the color scheme's cool, the theming's cool.
Yeah.
The old commercials, which we'll watch later in true fashion, those were cool.
Yeah.
I was just like, man, this coaster is it for me now. And then I finally rode it when I was tall enough, because I wasn't tall enough when I was 6.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is horrible. This is a bad coaster. But
it was already too late, though.
It was already too late. I was a Fantist of Mantis, so I had to fight through it.
Yeah.
It was actually the first coaster I ever blacked out on. Straight up blacked out. It was after, people always had their methods, right, with stand-up coasters.
Yes.
Like, bend your knees a little bit. Be sure that you don't, lock your knees.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you to lock your knees, but don't do it. Just bend them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know all that, so I locked my knees, and then that first curve around into the block breaks that went down the hill, everything went black.
Yeah.
And then going into that vertical loop, I was like, I think I was awakened by that roar of the vertical loop. But I was like, okay, this is already a very unpleasant experience.
Yeah.
But, as we know now, it is a much more comfortable ride with Rougarou. And, we don't want to get too much into Rougarou just yet, because that's recent history.
Yeah.
But that's just some background information about my very strange obsession. But just some facts about Mantis diving into this today. The height is 145 feet. The drop is 137 feet. It's got a pretty decent hill. I mean, I wouldn't say it's by any means the best in the park. It decent floater, I guess, depending on where you're sitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the speed is 60 miles an hour at top speeds. There are 4 inversions, and it's a pretty decent duration, actually, of 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yes, that is pretty good.
So
for sure. And when it debuted, it was the tallest, fastest, and longest stand-up coaster in the world.
Yes, it was, and it was up until Riddler's Revenge the following year.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Riddler's Revenge came and was far superior in every aspect. So,
yeah.
It was the tallest and fastest, and it had a pretty interesting early history. A lot of people know, some don't, but it wasn't originally going to be Mantis.
No.
It was called Banshee. But it was the 1990s, and Cedar Point's in the Bible Belt, and people kind of found out what a banshee was, which, if you don't know, is basically a spirit of death in Irish folklore.
Yeah.
And, once word came out about that, Sandusky-ites were none too pleased.
All the Karens showed up.
All the Karens showed up with their chopped hair, and they said, listen, this isn't going to fly. My child is not getting on no death, spirit of death. So, Cedar Point had at that point already distributed, flyers and Banshee logo T-shirts to season pass holders.
Yeah. Which you own. You have quite a bit of that.
I have quite a bit of Banshee stuff, yes, which is nice. It's rare, I guess.
Yeah. I have some of the numbers here. So the name Banshee was announced on September 8th, 1995.
Yes.
Within the first week, they decided to not go with that name.
Yes.
And then by November 14th, they had filed the trademark for Mantis.
Yes.
So it was crazy how quick they gave in.
Yeah.
Decided, okay, we won't do Banshee.
Yes. Yeah. They were like, okay, public outcry. We are going to get canceled if we don't change this.
I think it's funny too how originally it was supposed to be Banshee. They decided that was too extreme or whatever, so they changed it to Mantis. Then when it got a conversion, they changed the name to Rougarou, which is isn't that a werewolf creature that eats kids?
Yeah, so that's I believe French folklore.
Yeah.
And it is basically a night-stalking werewolf that eats children.
And then Valraven, it also has some really dark meaning, I think.
Yeah, I feel like Valraven is something Scandinavian, like Norwegian or
it's
Swedish.
Some bird that steals kids or
something.
I can't remember.
It's really dark. Like how Cedar Point hit, they were like, oh, Banshee's really bad. But you know what? Let's talk about children eating creatures in recent years.
And then even, the final year of it being, the final year of Mantis was 2014.
Yes.
And Banshee, they used the name for the invert at Kings Island also in 2014.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was like they they were like, man, we have this invert coming to Kings Island. We can't trademark a name. Let's just, we already have Banshee. Let's go with it. Roll with it. Yeah. It's been, 18 years.
Long enough, right.
They're not going to remember. We'll just go with the Irish spirit of death now instead of 15 or 18 years ago.
Yeah. I actually think, though, it ended up the best decision for the ride because I think the name Mantis is cool. I think it fits really well with the ride.
Yeah, I agree. And I've always been kind of into the praying mantis, just kind of how sci-fi it looks.
Yeah,
as it's just it has the head that turns and eyes that kind of pop out of its head, and then it eats the female mantis eats the male mantis after they have intercourse or whatever, and
during mating.
and that's just the most feminist badass thing I've ever heard of. So, I love it. But yeah, I think it was a good name choice because if you're gonna have to give in to the Karens, you might as well find a name that every coaster has some sort of intimidating name.
Yeah.
For the most part, you might as well find something that makes sense for standing up. Like Mantises stand on their hind legs quite a bit.
Yeah, it all
made
fit.
sense. It all made sense.
And the tagline for the coaster was, "How much can you stand?"
Yeah, so they had two.
What was it? With Banshee, it was something else, I think.
So Banshee was the new way to scream.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Banshees, if you've ridden Banshee at Kings Island, that screaming track as you go down the hill. Yeah, so Banshees, and there's that phrase, screaming like a banshee or whatever.
Yep.
And then with Mantis, it was how much can you stand and can you stand up to it was the other one. So all standing puns, haha, real funny guys. Great job.
Some other fun facts. So when it opened in 1996, it was the 12th coaster at Cedar Point, which was the most of any park in the world.
It was.
Which is crazy. So in 1996, a park with 12 coasters was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now Cedar Point, I think, has 19 or 20.
18.
Or 18, 19. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
Let me consult here. I believe it's 18.
Currently, Magic Mountain has the most coasters of any park.
They're working on 21.
Yeah.
So Cedar Point has 17.
Okay, 17. Okay, yeah. Energylandia, they're coming up close though. I think, and within the next 5 years, they're going to be the park with the most coasters. The way they're adding them.
Yeah.
Over there in Poland.
Yeah, Energylandia is just crazy. They've had a new coaster.
At least
one new coaster every year.
Yeah, because I think the park started 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, 2014 or 15. Yeah. And I believe the way it works there, and I could be wrong. I'm sure someone will correct us if I am, but I believe it's like a publicly funded park.
Oh, okay.
So they receive government dollars to kind of generate tourism.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're able to get all these insane coasters.
Yeah, that's cool.
So anyway,
one other fun fact before we move on.
Yeah.
Mantis is built over 20% of water. So 20% of the coaster is built over water.
Yeah. If you went to Cedar Point in the mid 90s prior to Mantis, you know that was part of the I guess the island within the peninsula, kind of where that turnaround or that big overbank turn for Millennium Force is, and over where what's the name of that new thing?
The Forbidden Frontier.
Forbidden Frontier, yeah, where Dinosaurs Alive, almost the Dinosaurs Alive, where all that is over there.
Yep.
So it, a large portion of the coaster, they really had to get creative with how they build it on the water.
They did, yeah. The first drop, especially, you drop over the water, and then the loop. And I believe also that loop was the tallest vertical loop on a coaster.
It was.
It opened.
Yes.
I don't think it is anymore. I guess probably Full Throttle might be the
Full Throttle was, and now there's one in Turkey that took the lead.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at Turkey.
They got to be known for something.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's cool. I always loved the color scheme on Mantis.
Yeah. That was a big part of the appeal, I think, for me.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Oh, and when I was doing some research for this ride yesterday, because I was trying to look up the commercials and stuff, I found some footage of the coaster opening year before they added the trim brakes on Mantis.
Yeah.
And it was insane.
Oh, yeah.
How fast it went through the course. Like, you could tell it was a blackout coaster.
Oh, yeah.
And then I saw some reverse POVs, too, also, before trims. You could just see, like, people's ears getting red from the bashing in the headrest.
Yes.
Because that was another thing, is, like, so not only did there was, different tips on how to ride with your legs, like locking them or bending them.
Yeah.
It was also with your head. Do you lean way forward outside of the headrest, or do you lean way back?
Right.
And keep your head back. I found that leaning my head back was the best, and like wrapping my arms around the headrest so like my hand was in between my ears and the headrest worked the best. But
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
I could never get the leg part right. Okay, to be honest, I did not like Mantis at all.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Right, but it was the right decision to add that stand-up coaster to the park at the time, because it was like the new popular coaster model.
Yeah.
And at first I liked it, but I was dumb and I didn't know better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And didn't you? Man, I mean, I remember this sign.
Yeah.
I didn't have my ears pierced back then, but didn't you remember having to take your earrings
Yeah.
out?
Yeah.
Because there was a sign that said, like,
remove your earrings.
Yeah. Basically, this coaster will
Yes.
impale your head with your earrings if you wear them.
Yes, and 12-year-old cool kid me, I had hoop earrings.
Oh yeah.
At the time, so I had to take out my hoop earrings.
Yeah.
And put them in my pocket. But so even though I didn't find the ride enjoyable, I always rode it every time I went, and there was parts of the coaster that I liked, but the biggest issue I had with it was I could never find a comfortable way to ride it without it crushing my nether regions.
Yes, that was a big problem.
Also, my legs, like I couldn't. It was always really uncomfortable on my legs. Like even I tried, bending my legs or straight legs. I always just felt like a ton of pressure on my knees.
Yeah. And I've noticed that because I've ridden almost every other. The only stand-up coaster that's still operational in the U.S. I haven't ridden is Scorcher.
Georgia Scorcher.
Yeah.
Same with me. Actually, I haven't been on the Riddler's.
Oh, you haven't been on Riddler?
No,
okay.
No.
Yeah, Riddler is shockingly smooth. I genuinely hope they don't convert it to a floorless. I mean, they have Scream there. It wouldn't make sense. I could get into all that. But,
Right.
Something that I found with all stand-up coasters is that there's a certain you have to ride defensively.
Yes.
You have to like prepare for the worst. But personally, I guess, and it all depends on your height. Now, granted, the seats do kind of
they would adjust.
They adjust to your height,
right.
but ultimately, though, what'll kill you, if your legs aren't numb, what will kill you is those restraints.
Yes.
I personally prefer those restraints to like vest restraints.
I think there's good and bad to both.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But for like dive coasters, I prefer the old restraints.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the vests they get too restrictive, too tight, so they limit your floater time.
Yeah, big time.
But with the vest, I like that there's not the headbanging.
Yeah, I agree, and that was a big problem on most stand-up coasters is the
right.
headbanging, and so I never really had many issues in the way of my nuts getting smashed. People were always like, "Oh man, I got off," and like, "I don't think I can have kids now."
Again. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the joke.
I was always like, "Okay, whatever." So I wrote it, and I was like, "Oh, maybe it hurt my nuts, but I was out cold, so I don't remember." But every ride after that, I was like, that wasn't the worst part about it. I think the worst part was just the blood rushing to my feet.
Yeah. I even tried riding it where I lifted my legs completely off and just like kind of sat on the little bicycles.
Yes, yeah.
That wasn't comfortable either.
No, yeah.
I tried it.
I would reach the point where like to gain the feeling back in my legs and on the final brake run, I would just sit there with my knees up and just kind of like dangle on the bike seat because I was like, oh, this is better than just having to continue standing.
Also, there's like the other stand-up models, who makes up the two-seater ones, like Python that was at Kings Island.
King Cobra.
King Cobra.
Yeah, that was Togo. Yeah,
Togo. Yeah, you have not been on a Togo stand-up coaster,
No,
correct?
I hadn't. No.
Yeah, so it was King Cobra at Kings Island. I didn't ride that one. I rode the one at Canada's Wonderland, which was called
Skyflyer?
Sky something. You'll look it up.
Yeah.
Skyrider.
Skyrider, that's right. Yeah.
So I rode Skyrider, and then I also, before it closed down, I rode the one at King's Dominion. Shockwave, yes. Which I believe is a clone of Skyrider.
Yes.
And those seats were very much similar, like where it was like a bicycle seat, like under your crotch, and then the harness was weird. Instead of coming down over your shoulders, like it came in
from the side.
From the sides, and wrapped around.
Yeah.
I found those a little bit more comfortable, but probably the main reason is the coasters weren't as extreme. They weren't as fast and whatever, but they did feel a little bit chintzier though.
Yeah. I can see that.
But I don't know if there's any Togos left standing in the United States.
Not stand up.
Yeah.
The only one I can think of is that one in Vegas.
Right. Yeah. The New York.
New York. Yeah. That's the only one I believe that's operational. Again, someone will tell us if we're wrong.
Right.
But
I believe the Skyrider from Canada's Wonderland was sold to a park in Europe or Asia.
Yes.
And I think it's still standing.
Yes.
But...
Yeah. It got moved over there. Togo really had a bad run here in the U.S.
Yeah.
They got sued by, I believe, more than one park. I know Knott's did because Windjammer Surf Racers, which we'll do another episode on that, but Windjammer Surf Racers was a failure from the jump.
Yeah, yeah.
And there were some legal issues there, and I believe Great Adventure sued them over poor construction on Viper.
Yeah.
Prior to El Toro.
Okay.
So yeah, and I can't remember if there was a legal battle there, or if they just kind of were mad and stopped doing business or something. I can't remember. There's something there. But yeah, Togo had a bad run, and those stand-up coasters, they weren't thrilling. It looked like just maybe a loop and some helices, and that was it.
That was about it. Yeah.
So I don't feel like I missed out on a whole lot by not riding them, but just for the sake of the credit, I kind of was like, man, I really wish I could have ridden one of those.
Right. So, as we said earlier, though, Mantis suffered from low ridership, mainly because of the discomforting ride.
Yes.
So, in 2014, they released a video featuring the Grim Reaper.
They did. I remember this.
And it was about the closure of Mantis.
Yeah.
And at the time, they didn't say what their plan was for the coaster, so enthusiasts and, the general public, was left to guess what was going to happen. Were they going to tear it down and build something new? Or I think at the time there was a rumor that they would convert it to a floorless. So, which ended up obviously being the case. So after they announced that it was going to be closed forever. It was a short time before they announced Rougarou.
Yeah. And I remember when the video came out, I was student teaching at the time, and the way my schedule worked out, I couldn't go get final rides. So you can imagine I was devastated.
Oh, right.
I was completely devastated. But, we were just kind of left to theorize for what felt like months. Like, are they going to actually chop down a B&M? Because Dueling Dragons wasn't even torn down at that time, but that would have been the only other B&M to ever get scrapped ever.
Right.
So I'm kind of a pessimist. I was like, wow, they're going to actually scrap this awesome coaster and not do anything else with it.
Yeah.
But then, that was the first one that B&M ever converted to a floorless. And I was relieved because I really liked that layout on Rougarou, a Mantis, whatever.
Yeah.
Adam and I had a magical ride on Rougarou this past summer in the rain, and we got off and we're like, man, this is a good coaster. Like, it's so underappreciated.
I gotta tell you, a good layout is a good layout, and this, like, the layout that B&M built for Mantis is excellent. It was just when it was stand up, it was just uncomfortable.
Right.
But as Rougarou, a floorless coaster, I love it. It's my favorite floorless coaster.
Agreed.
It's probably one of my favorite B&M coasters at Cedar Point. I like Raptor more, but a lot of times when I go though, my ride on Rougarou, I enjoy it more than Gatekeeper or Valraven.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm Gatekeeper, Valraven, they're great. They have their place, but there's just that, I don't know, that vintage charm that Rougarou kind of has.
That mid-90s B&M awesomeness.
There's just that roar. There's the, it's Mark talks all the time about how every B&M in the 90s had the same layout, They had the double corkscrews at the end, a vertical loop, And it's true. This definitely is no exception, but, I think that there's still something kind of charming and nostalgic about it.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Which is why I still, to this day, I think Rougarou is great. I'm so glad that they didn't scrap it and put something else there. They very easily could have and probably would have been justified to, but instead... they saw the value in keeping it. They saw how the layout was, like we were saying, it was a great layout. So they just wanted to repurpose it. And, we made a candle in honor of Mantis, our fallen stand-up coasters, along with a couple others. So be sure to check those out in the store if you haven't.
Yes. As I was saying before, I did some research yesterday to find the original commercials that Cedar Point put out for Mantis in 1996. And they were good.
They were very good.
So we're going to play two. The first one is a shorter one. Very 90s. If you're a kid of the 90s, this is the exact kind of commercial you'd see on Nickelodeon or like morning cartoons. So we're going to start it. It's going to be this kid. So the point of view, you're kind of at the point of view of you're the Mantis and you're looking up at this kid towering over you, like pretty much bullying you.
Yeah.
So, and he's got a little weaselly haircut.
Oh, yeah.
And, all right, here
Probably
we go.
jean shorts on, too.
Maybe Jinkos.
Oh, yeah, dude.
He's probably, you can't see the back of his head, but I guarantee he has a rat tail.
Absolutely. No question.
All right. Okay, so this is the Cedar Point commercial for Mantis in 1996. Oh, before we play it, they never did a Banshee commercial, correct?
No, they did not. No.
They didn't have enough time.
No, they got Karen quickly. So.
Okay, so here we go.
Boy, aren't you ugly. You lucky? Should I or shouldn't I? Hey, where do you think you're going?
He's threatening to stand
Ever
on
wonder
the Mantis.
why you're not supposed to step on a mantis?
Yeah, you better say your prayers.
On May 11th, you'll find out.
On May 11th, you'll find out. Oh, dude, that was heavy.
Yeah, I love the hardcore riff at the
end.
Cedar Point was doing like this hardcore guitar riff.
Oh yeah, dude, they knew what they were dealing with.
It's totally funny. Like the marketing throughout the years obviously has changed, but they went through like sort of like this extreme sort of like phase, like. Even with the Ride Warriors for a little bit.
That was almost kind of heavy. Ride Warriors. Yeah.
Like they went through like this badass phase.
Oh, they did. Yeah, absolutely. I'm here for it, man.
Yeah.
And I like this commercial is so it's odd to me, and it makes me draw back on what I always told as a kid. Were you ever told that it's illegal to step on a praying mantis?
No, I don't think so.
Like,
no.
I never tried to kill them, but I just remember hearing that. I was always told, like, it's illegal. Like, against the law, you'll go to jail. I was like, Okay, all right. These are sacred
like
animals.
The protected species.
Yeah, maybe it is. I have no.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a biologist or something that's
Yeah.
listening, and they can affirm that for us. But
I hope we have a biologist fan.
I hope so. That would be the coolest thing. We will send you a free sticker if you are a biologist.
Yeah. No, I was never told that, but I would have been too afraid to step on one anyways, because I would be convinced. Well, one, I wouldn't want the big like splatter.
Yeah, because they're big bugs.
They're big bugs,
Yeah.
and two, I would be convinced that like it would attack me before I could step on it.
They're
but,
menacing.
Yeah, but it's funny though when you compare their old marketing strategies with like being more extreme. They definitely focused more on the coasters, the extreme coasters.
Yeah.
So they like catered to the thrill seeker. Now it's like the opposite, where they're catering to the family, and it's like a place like no other.
A place like no other. It's no longer the rock and roller coast.
No,
it's a place like no other.
Yeah, with like
it's like Disney.
Yeah, that's what they're trying. And I get it. I think that's smart. Yeah,
it's their competitor.
But now they're like saying like, come to the beautiful shores of Lake Erie, take a tour and drink some wine along the beach.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's good. It's, it's more well-rounded now.
Yeah,
It's funny. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this next one is also from, it says a promotional video from 1995. So this one, I would assume wouldn't have aired on TV. So this isn't a commercial. This is more of like, they would send this to enthusiasts or
in the media.
Social media.
Yep.
There wasn't social media at the time, but the media.
This was actually put on a VHS and distributed to, I believe, primarily media, maybe news outlets that wanted to play it for, the 11 o'clock news.
Right.
The new coaster coming.
Right.
So I have a copy of this, and it is awesome. And
you do have a copy of it?
I do have a copy of this.
Yeah.
It is, it's a 4-minute clip, and it kind of gives you a sense of the theming they were going with, kind of this sci-fi, killer mantis kind of like feeling. Yeah. And it's a very good, also very, very 90s video.
Extreme, like
so
extremely
90s.
Dramatic, over-the-top acting.
Yes.
But well done, I must say. I wonder, so once we start, it's a scientist. He looks like he's in some, like, science lab in a dungeon somewhere. Mm-hmm. It almost looks like a hostage video.
It does,
because he's like sweating and like there's close-ups of his mouth like all wet with sweat.
An uncomfortable amount of sweat on his upper lip.
Like before the take, they had to like spritz him with water.
We got to really sell this. We need your upper lip to just be drenched.
So they get a close-up of his upper lip, just drenched with sweat.
It's disgusting. I remember the first time watching this, thinking, "Oh my gosh, I am not into this."
But he sells it pretty well.
He does. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what other stuff this guy has done acting-wise.
Yeah.
With a look at his IMDb later. Maybe.
We should, yeah.
So we're going to start it. It's a scientist talking about an experiment that the Cedar Point science team did?
Yeah, the Cedar Point science team. Prior to sending Orion to the galaxies, they were on their insect stuff.
They were doing, all right, here we go.
It all
It's
began
not too sweaty
innocently
yet.
enough.
Not
A
yet.
scientific experiment to give man control over the population of certain insect species. A slight alteration to the ecosystem for the benefit of humankind. Ironically, our answer came from nature herself, the mantis.
Oh, the mantis. Yeah, that's right.
An awe-inspiring contradiction of beauty and brutality, reverence and repugnance. Ferocious
Using
carnivore
some
that captures its
alliteration
unwitting prey, devours it, then
It's
searches
poetry.
for more.
Oh yeah.
We discovered that by increasing the mantis's appetite, we could wipe out the world's most damaging
Even
insects.
the mantis shots.
Yeah.
We basked in the glory of our victory. However, it was short-lived.
Short-lived.
We had failed to realize that when faced with a lack of prey, the mantis turns on its own species.
It actually eats its own species anyway, but that's all right.
The
Yeah, I'm going to pause it for a second.
Yeah.
Another thing that they show a lot in this commercial. Oh, I happened to pause it on his lips.
On his lips.
Another thing that is cool about Mantis, so like we were talking about the color scheme earlier, which is like predominantly that red and yellow track with the purpley blue supports. So of course a lot of their merchandise and stuff was that color scheme, but there's a lot of green.
A lot of green.
Like the Mantis itself was green.
Yeah.
In this commercial, like the steroids or whatever that they're injecting into the Mantis is like a green ooze.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's even though you didn't necessarily see the green color on the trains or on the coaster track or in the station or much of like the physical theming of the ride itself, it was in a lot of the promotional stuff.
Yeah,
like that color green.
Yeah, and it was just, there were just so many different colors, which made it a really unique coaster.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing, this is a sidetrack, but the book, I think it was called Roller Coaster.
Yeah.
It featured Mantis on the cover.
On the cover, yeah.
Yeah, and that was another reason I really was attracted to the coaster, even though I didn't like riding it. It was just like the color scheme was so pleasing.
Yeah.
So I always think about that cover, like it's just how cool looking the coaster looked.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's jump back in so we don't have to stare at his lips anymore.
Yes.
Oh, they're so wet, like
Oh.
underneath
His chin.
His brow is sweating.
Oh, yeah.
Sideburns.
Now a monstrous, mutated form of mantis.
So 90s.
Carnivorous
So
beast
apparently,
driven by an insane...
only I kind of talked over it. So their experiments killed off the entire mantis population except one.
Yes, because it ate all of the other
It ate
mantises.
Yes.
And now we're going to learn about the mantis.
So it became a carnivore. Was it a carnivore anyways?
It's a carnivore anyway.
it
That's
eats
the thing. I don't think
grasshoppers and
Cedar Point thought through the fact that it's a cannibalistic book.
Right. All right. Well. All right.
Yeah.
insatiable appetite for... An appetite no longer satisfied as easily as its
I
predecessors.
like that swallow he had to do.
Oh, yeah.
Mantis
That was
Before he said it.
great acting.
It hides in the foggy, dank darkness, silently
darkness.
stalking its prey.
Whoever wrote this script is a
Till
true
the lightning
poet.
Oh,
swift
they're
motion
great.
seizes its victim, clutching it in
Okay.
a vice-like
Oh,
grip.
this animation.
Yep.
Oh,
Still standing
Oh,
upright, the
wow.
hapless
The
victim
animation
is
has come a long
flung
way since
rapidly
then,
and
too.
Oh my
mercilessly
gosh.
into the air in every imaginable direction. Dropped,
I love the music too.
oh yeah.
thrown,
And
tossed around and around like a toy.
it's a great layout.
It's so good.
Until it's disoriented and defenseless and succumbs. Unable to
Gosh,
stand
he's so
anymore.
sweaty.
I really thought my beats were a fabrication. Someone's insane idea of a joke. It's not. Mantis is real.
The lips again.
Mantis
Oh, yeah.
is out there.
That's cool. So that's like a skyline of Cedar
Yeah.
Point with a big mantis.
Oh yeah.
You can see Magnum there.
Yep.
Chilling reminder to all mankind that those who believe we are the most formidable
of species
are
simply the biggest
Biggest
of
of
fools. Oh man.
I'm ready.
love this video.
I'm ready to run through a wall.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The animations and the sparkling claws.
Did they? So this music that we're hearing right now, did they ever play that in the station or?
Maybe they did. I don't ever remember hearing station music
No.
for this coaster. Because like even Wicked Twister has station music.
Yep, and like obviously Millennium Force does.
Yeah.
Teflo Dragster has.
Ready to go.
I know. Yeah. But like I like this sound. I'm gonna press play and it's gonna
Yeah.
start.
Yeah. I would love it if they brought this back for Rougarou, because it feels almost fitting for Rougarou.
Yeah,
you
it
know,
works, yeah.
It's that predatory like.
Yeah. I remember, so again, I mentioned earlier, I was watching footage from opening day, and I believe it was like even, so it opened May 9th, 1996. That was like the media day, and then it opened to the public on the 11th. So I watched a video from May 9th. No, I'm sorry, from May 11th. So when it opened to the public, and seeing the queue fully loaded with people, I can remember waiting in that long line. And I don't think so. Back in the 90s, if you ever visited Cedar Point in the 90s, you'll remember that they used to have a DJ in the booth. They had one for Millennium Force, they had one for Raptor, they had one for Magnum. I don't think Mantis ever did. I feel like Mantis might have been the first coaster where they were starting to phase it out. They didn't have the DJ, but they did have a giant big screen TV.
Yeah, they did.
In the queue, and it seems like they would just play like music videos on there.
Yeah.
And so I have like that memory of waiting in the long, whatever, hour and a half, 2 hour line, and like watching. It was probably some like, you know, rock and roll, extreme metal,
Or Alanis Morissette randomly or something like that.
playing on the screen. And the queue is cool because, you know, most of the coasters like going around the queue or over the queue, so of course, like the loud B&M roar drowned out
Oh,
whatever
of
Alanis
course, yeah.
Morissette song was playing. But it was, it was just such a cool '90s experience.
Yeah. Oh man, I really like that cue. The thing that if you've been to Cedar Point, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But for Mantis / Rougarou and Iron Dragon, is you have the kids that think it's hilarious to feed the spit in the lake and feed the fish.
Oh yeah, because you can see like the carp or whatever down there.
Yeah, yeah.
So people
They're like, oh, watch, they'll eat my spit. It's like, yeah, duh, they're a fish.
It never fails though. That's true. Never fails. You see every time someone's spitting in the water and the
dumb fish.
and the fish comes swimming up.
Yeah. Every time, and it happens to this day, and it's like that's my cue memory of Mantis. Was just people spitting into the water.
That's a great memory. Yeah, I have the exact same memory. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I probably spit in the water.
Of course, yeah. We've all done it once or twice.
Yeah.
But you do definitely have those kids from like age 6 to 11 or whatever, where they're just like, oh man, this is wild.
The carp I don't know if they're carp or what the heck they are.
I think they're carp. Yeah,
they get pretty big.
They get huge.
They
think
could
that
name the coaster like the carp or something.
Yeah. The malevolent carp.
So before we wrap it up, so obviously we know that Mantis was transformed into Rougarou, which opened in 2015, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the life of Rougarou is going to be? Because, Cedar Point, they remove coasters from time to time to build new coasters.
Yeah.
Obviously, with it being converted to a floorless, that extended the shelf life of the coaster.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? Like, how long do you think this sticks around?
Yeah. I've thought about this, and you always every year you hear theories about different coasters that Cedar Point could move on from just to make space for the new big innovative whatever record breaker. And I have heard Rougarou's name mentioned. I think the big names that I've heard in terms of like on the chopping block next are obviously Wicked Twister.
Yes.
I have heard Dragster just because it's a maintenance nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dick Kinsel came out and said he wished he would have never built it just because it's such a problem.
Right. I think eventually that will come down.
It will have to. Yeah, it will. So to answer that, I think probably those two Intamins would go down before that B&M just because they're way more expensive. They have they each have a good plot of land. And now, Rougarou has a good plot of land as well over the water. It'd be cool. But, I think Cedar Point kind of sealed its fate to keep it for the long run when they, made the risk and converted it to a floorless.
Yeah.
Because that was not a very cheap, adventure for them. So
I think, I don't know, I think you might have mentioned it, but to build Mantis was $12 million.
$12 million, yeah, which was very, very cheap.
Right.
By today's B&M standards.
Right. And I'm not sure exactly what it cost to convert it
I'm not sure either.
To Rougarou, but even buying the trains alone, so they bought 3 trains for Rougarou, plus they had to modify the station for a floorless coaster.
Yep.
And the paint job. I mean, I would guess it was probably a $3 to $6 million conversion.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
It looks like around $2 million.
Okay, $2 million.
That's what I'm seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it was only $2 million, I mean that's a solid investment for the park.
Yeah.
Because I would guess $2 million for a park like Cedar Point size. That's a drop in the bucket.
Oh sure.
And I mean, you'll go to the park now, and you're not going to wait in a long line ever for Rougarou.
No.
But it definitely, I would say, probably at least for the first couple of years, it definitely drew more interest to that coaster.
Absolutely.
And it, brought a new spark to the ride. And I like the coaster much better. So
yeah,
I definitely think there's other coasters at Cedar Point that will leave before Rougarou, especially since they did the conversion. But I would assume, maybe within the next 10 years.
Yeah, 10 to 15.
Yeah.
As RMC continues to develop and come up with the new big thing, I could see Cedar Point obviously getting the first T-Rex. I could see, maybe, obviously Cedar Point needs a wooden coaster. I think that they'll get a gravity group or something along those lines.
Yeah, GCI is doing some really cool stuff.
GCI, yep.
They have the Titan track now, which allows them to do inversions and stuff, I believe. So, yeah, Cedar Point definitely needs a solid wooden coaster.
Yeah,
for the park.
And there's always talk that they're going to get a dark ride, and there's talk that they're going to, I don't know. So, obviously Cedar Point eventually will move on from Rougarou, and B&M continues to lose its relevance in today's market, unfortunately. I'm a huge B&M fan, and I hate saying that. And, they do come up with new things. They have this new surf coaster model.
Which is a stand-up coaster,
Which is a stand-up,
yeah.
So I'd be interested to see that. But ultimately, they're kind of losing themselves in the shadow of, RMC.
Yeah. Well, what I think the main thing with B&M is, I think they're still as solid and reliable as ever.
Absolutely.
But the competition is caught up and passed them.
Right. Because for decades, really, they were the standard at parks. They were
it was B&M and Intamin, but B&M was always the most reliable.
Yes, right.
Intamin's always a bit more of a gamble, but now RMC coming up, Vecoma's really stepped their game up.
They have.
What else? SNS is starting to build coasters. Premier, Mach. I mean, so there's just so much more competition now, and they're all these different manufacturers are doing really cool stuff.
They are.
Yeah. So I actually like it, though. I like the variety of different types of coasters at the park rather than just B&M, because Cedar Point has 3 B&Ms or 4.
Yeah, Gatekeeper, Valraven, Raptor, and Rougarou.
Yeah, so I like the variety of different types of coasters. So makes me happy. But so I mean, it'll stick around a little while longer, but eventually its time will finally
come.
That'll be a sad day.
It'll be a sad day, but it'll be I will be excited for whatever's next. So
right. Mantis Reborn.
Son of Mantis. It'll be Son of Mantis. It'll be the surf coaster. That would actually be awesome. I would love that.
When the surf coaster opens, which is rumored to be for SeaWorld in Orlando, I believe.
Yep.
We'll have to get down there and check it out.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
I'll be
interested.
Excited. I'll be interested to see what kind of modifications they made to the stand-up coaster model to make it more comfortable.
Yeah, because that is definitely why they're doing it. And I'll be interested to see then if, say, Riddler's Revenge gets the surf coaster treatment,
right?
Or something, something like the stand-up coaster model just completely gets scrapped.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yep. All right, so we'll wrap it up now. We mentioned earlier you can check out airtimemisfits.com because we do have a Mantis inspired candle.
We sure do.
As well as Vortex and Apocalypse.
And Apocalypse, yeah. They're called the Standing in the Past series. They're all floral scented because we're laying flowers on the graves of these fallen, forgotten, totally comfortable stand-up coasters.
Right. So you can go to our website. You can buy one for $8.
One for $8 and 3 for $24 or $22. Yeah. There's a price break there.
You get a discount if you buy all 3.
Yeah.
And we might throw in an extra goodie or 2. Yeah. So check it out. Thanks for listening. Make sure you go back and check out our other episodes. We talk about some other cool stuff. And stay tuned for the next episode.
We'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.